Glaciers that we have are snow-capped regions and are seen as sensitive measures of climate change and global warming. And debris is that accumulates on the surface of glaciers and causes a substantial change in the rate of their melting. Now, identifying debris-covered glaciers from clean glaciers through satellite images is important since further research needs this primary information. Now we have this question that why do we even need geovisualization of debris-covered glaciers? So, increasing global temperatures are causing glaciers to melt at an unprecedented rate, which is giving us horrifying fast-approaching deadlines. One of them is that by the advent of the next century, 1/3 of ice on Earth would have melted. Even though we focus on diminishing our greenhouse emissions, these deadlines are inevitable. Melting of ice means vast and regular flooding of plains, changing climatic patterns, extreme weather conditions, rising sea levels, and even shifting of tectonic plates, which means high seismic activity leading to record-breaking earthquakes and tsunamis. Now I have two questions, which are: where is debris found in the study region? How can debris-covered glaciers be differentiated from clean glaciers? And how can debris-covered glaciers be differentiated from all other kinds of debris? This is my study area map, which is of district Chitral, Hindukush Mountains lie here in Pakistan region. My research objectives were to extract snow and debris cover in the study region, to analyze debris-covered glaciers and clean glaciers and carry out a temporal analysis between 2016 and 2020, and to carry out an area calculation to quantify the results. This is my methodology. Methodology के अंदर I have two data sources which were DEM and Sentinel-2 imagery. On Sentinel-2 imagery, I carried out an NDSI and with the thresholding, standard thresholding of 0.4 between 0.4 and 0.4. After that, I have carried out it gave me two classes of snow-covered area and all other classes which were debris. And then PCA, and from the DEM, I had calculated watershed modeling and slope map. Now there is this point to note that debris covered or all kinds of glaciers would be low lying in the class which is less than 50 degrees. So with this information, the watershed modeling and PCA are overlaid and extracted debris covered glaciers from the region. First of all, this is NDSI 2016 and 2020. The light shade gives me debris, which includes everything except snow, and purple color is snow. The difference is quite prominent that 2016 के अंदर we had less snow and in 2020 we had more snow, which means कि debris covered कम मार्क्स रखता है. This is area calculation. 2016 more debris, 2020 less debris. Then PCA was carried out, it enhances the image quality. Same results, debris and snow, less snow in 2016, more snow in 2020. This is the slope map. The red color signifies the areas less than 15 degrees, slope less than 15 degrees, and green color are all the highlight areas. Now from the results of this 2016 and 2020 PCA and slope map, I have extracted the debris in the area. All district Chitral, all the debris in district Chitral. After that, I carried out watershed modeling in the to find out the sub basins, जिसके अंदर हमें Google Earth से हम लोग उसको मैच कर सकें कि इधर debris covered glaciers actually exist करते हैं. So in the sub basins 1, 2, 3, 4, 12, 18, and 21, 24, there are actually debris covered glaciers. Now I carried out extracted glaciers from these sub basins, and this gave me the debris covered glaciers, actual debris covered glaciers. This is the area calculation in 2016-2020, and this is the geotagging of actually identifying glaciers. The debris covered glaciers actually do exist in these regions that I have calculated, and these are the clean glaciers in 2016 and 2020. This is the area calculation of them, which means less clean glaciers 2016 and more clean glaciers 2020. Thank you.
Then shrinking water resources. This is how we see the changing climate. The globe of Earth is burning because of this. anthropogenic activity. But there is a way forward. You see, this is climate smart agriculture. If we come towards the climate smart, then we can have a solution. This is what we say the carbon sequestration. This is the use of the fertilizers and efficiencies in our soil. So organic matter is still very low. This is the use of the farmers, which they use 100% is nitrogen, then it's 90% phosphorus. But as far as the potash is concerned, the situation is very, very pretty. They have gone to the zero. See it. Banana 90%. Starting from the goatki up to the chutta, everywhere we find banana. Then shrinking water resources. This is how we see the changing climate. The globe of Earth is burning because of the anthropogenic activity. But there is a way forward. You see, this is climate smart agriculture. If we come towards the climate smart, then we can have a solution. This is what we say the carbon sequestration. This is the use of the fertilizers and efficiencies in our soil. So organic matter is still very low. This is the use of the farmers, which they use 100% is nitrogen, then it's 90% phosphorus. But as far as the potash is concerned, the situation is very, very pretty. They have gone to the zero. See it. Banana 90%. Starting from the goatki up to the chutta, everywhere we find banana.
Faster than the other crops. So that was also a reason that they went for it. And then consumption needs, because in the city sometimes the prices of the crops goes up. When the prices go up, then we need some time to import it from Iran or Afghanistan. So if the urban agriculture is there, and people usually sell there. So these were like the reasons through which the people were attracted for the urban agriculture. Then different, when we asked about the market, that what are the markets, so 61% of them said that the local market, because these are the crops grown within the city and they cannot be transported much due to their perishable nature. So the easily marketable place was the local market. And then retail market, out of district 11%, out of province only 5 to 8%, and then out of the city sometimes to the neighboring districts that were around 14%. So basically the market for these wastewater irrigated crops was within the city, within the Quetta city. So if you see that they use like, beside that they also use sometimes fresh water, because they had sometimes there is scarcity of wastewater due to some construction issues, due to other failures, blockage of the drains. The water do not come to the areas. So they use as a contingency plan the wastewater tube wells with them. Sometimes they use it. And they also use organic manure, artificial fertilizers, pesticides, and some are using all of them. So this is the pictures. These are very important qualitative techniques. If you could see, there are areas in the city that are being irrigated through wastewater. So different sites were interviewed. You just go ahead. So these are the big channels of wastewater during our field sites, and beside you see the crop area through these wastewater. So this is another picture, a very you can say alarming picture. I am happy that the people from Spain and other areas are not sitting over here, otherwise they would be astonished to see what type of food is consumed by your societies. So if you see that even the plastic bags are mixed with the wastewater, so though there is no treatment at all, that is very alarming. Even we don't do the basic cleaning, basic filtering of the wastewater, and we when we go outside, I was in Thailand for 7 years in Bangkok, so we also go for the organic foods. We check their that what type of food is used in this meal. But our people don't look into it. They just go to the market, they see if something is cheap and they buy it. They don't know that what type of water is being used for the production of these crops. So another saying, you just see the sprinkling crops which are irrigated through wastewater irrigation. If you see that plastic bags are even inside these fields, and unfortunately, sometimes during last 2 years, the government has regulated the food authorities, and they sometimes visit and they, they bear it, they destroy the crops, but still these people are so intelligent enough that they manage to survive. If you see that the ponds where sometimes they use their water, this is the pond which is where water is stored and then transported to the crops. So if you could see, even from that ponds, the water is then transported in the channels to the field areas. So these are the crops. No one could see, no one could identify that what type of water is being used for this type of agriculture. You see the fields, greenery and shining crops. There is another picture, cabbage, and this is another picture. You could see that how much areas are irrigated with this water. And now you see this one, people are involved, and the land is prepared and then the water is given, and beside you see 2 people there and they are giving water to these fields. So this is another area, and if you could see that they are preparing land sometimes in the mid of the, when the crop is harvested, then they go for the land preparation. So sometimes the police comes, here comes the police. The food authority where is there? In conclusion, I will tell you whether it is beneficial or not beneficial. Whether these type of bans and destroying the crops is sustainable or not. Then you see, these are also like the pictures showing the crops in Quetta city, unfortunately. So come to the conclusion. We face in Quetta the extreme shortage of water. The water table is down to around 1,000 feet in some areas. There are another research studies that show that the land of the Quetta is subsided due to the excessive usage of the Pleistocene era water resources. We have saved that over the 10,000 years and even more than that. We don't have any source of water except those that is we received rainfall in the month of November, December and January. We don't have any monsoon range, we don't have any monsoon rainfall, and the snowfall, which was earlier quite common, that has also been reduced over the last 2-3 decades gradually. So there is acute shortage of, and I am predicting this one. I had also one presentation on the World Environment Day at Bhutan's University. I asked the authorities, because many ministers were sitting and the secretaries were sitting, I urged them to impose water emergency in Quetta city. Quetta is not going to tolerate a huge population. There is not a city which is resided beside a river like Ravi, like Chenab, like Indus, and that is not a city when there is excessive rainfall like Rawalpindi. We receive around 237 to 250 inches of water annually. Quetta is a city which is populated in a desert. So in a desert, if you are constructing the metropolitan cities, and even another big problem is that we have a DHA come into the scene and they started a new project, and I am expecting that around 1.1 to 1.5 million people will be resided over there. So they don't have any plan for water, fulfilling water demand and needs. So that is another disaster, and people are investing their money. They had just one dam, and the capacity of that dam is 8 million gallon per year. That is known as Mangi Dam in Ziyarat area. But the annual capacity of Quetta, demand of Quetta is around 60 to 70 million gallon per day. So it is not going to tolerate that big city, and I am just worried about the future of our beautiful Quetta, which was once called Little London in the era of the Britishers. So this is like, but when we see that these wastewater irrigation has severe health and environmental implications, because you know that those who are involved in water quality research, they know that the use of arsenic and the use of excessive hazardous nutrients in the water, in the crops is extremely hazardous for the human health. So there is no check, there is no, what can you say, that there is no regulatory framework made by the government for checking that how much polluted water is being provided to the area and to the crops. So, but the solution is not that we should ban wastewater irrigation. We should use wastewater irrigation, but after the necessary treatment. At least like there should be ponds. Some NGOs have come over there. Some government is also sensitizing now, and they're establishing some ponds like structures where the water is stored in one area, major cleaning, that the second filter, then the third filter. After that, that water can be used for the agriculture use. So future research can be also beneficial if that could use, that could assess the irrigation system of Balochistan. Carriages are dried in our area. Earlier it was like quite interesting that the people had used around 30 feet down the aisle, and they had extreme channels, and that were perennial, that were run all across the year. So the government should not stop the livelihood of these people involved in agriculture farming, but they should regulate it. Instead of banning, the government should regulate this type of practice. So, and another thing is the government and non-governmental organizations such as like Roots, we saw yesterday. There are many people, NGOs who are working for the safe food and food security. They should come and train the farmers and provide them capacity building and help them out to treat the water before they are used for agriculture production. So these are some like future research that could be used, that the knowledge and experience of these farmers should be used, and that should be assessed that how much capacity they need to for the treatment of that wastewater. So I guess I took a little time more. You all are, thank you, and question and answer you can.
This appointment research, nobody has ever conducted research on this region and in any topic, not a groundwater topic, in any topic. So the question, it was, I was very difficult in collecting data, and the good data was collected through questionnaires, different questionnaires. After collecting data, descriptive statistical analysis was performed, which was required by during the field survey. So, my questionnaire was consisted of different questions, and here are the results of some questions. And the first is the community's perception regarding groundwater level demand. So the first is the degrees, 5 feet decrease, which is 24.7%. Another is the decrease in groundwater, it means from 5 to 10 feet. It has a percentage of 18%. Similarly, decrease of 10 to 15 feet has a percentage of 24.1%. And there are 4% wells which has dried up completely. In the past, these are the data of the past 5 years. So in the past 5 years, 4% of the wells have been dried completely, which is a very alarming for this beautiful region. The second is groundwater pumping, groundwater pump from and the first one is electric water, which consists of 50%. Second one is solar pump. And the rate of these solar pumps has been increasing every year. Which in 2020 it was 25.29%, and the new growth consists of 10%. Similarly, high comes of 4%. So the domestic use of water relative also is not less than 50%. Liters per day were used by 31% people, and 50 to 100 liters were used by 20.58%, and greater than 100 liters were used by 27.64%. So this is the official groundwater level. We must up to this the blue color shows the highest depth, and the greenish the white portion of the color shows the lowest depth of groundwater. So this is really why this decrease in groundwater level from 2013 to 2000. This we have divided South Carolina into different sections, different villages, which we call it Khairpur It. So I have divided on different villages, small villages, and the highest portion of this decrease was in Azam and Kashmir. The reason of this decrease was because of the agricultural activities and the population extent. So I have in the director, we have proposed a management plan so that the groundwater can rise in the near future. Streamwater suggested on the first order stream we can build small check dams, small dams, so that the water of these small check dams or small dams can be used for irrigation purposes, and it can also infiltrate and the groundwater level can rise up. We have also proposed management plan for construction of check dams like I mentioned earlier, plantation, which will be used to
finish kar sir chalo bas
This is my BS research, and it will be overlapping with the research that Sir Dawood have presented here. So a little bit of introduction here that as we all know that climate change is a global phenomenon which accounts for the varying amount of rainfall. It can either cause floods or drought and dry season more drier. Next. As far as rainfall in Pakistan is concerned, from two basic sources. First is Western Depression, which occurs from months of December to March, and secondly from July to September in the form of monsoon rain. And the other rains that occur over there are due to local convection and erratic rains. So my study area was Khairpur It, and let me tell you about Khairpur It a little bit. That you can see in the northern side of Khairpur It, there is high altitude areas, and the central and southern part of Khairpur It are the low plain areas. And it is bounded by Afghanistan from the north western side. Pakistan lies in its north, and Punjab in its east, and Balochistan in the southern part. Next. So I have used the meteorological station data of 9 met station out of 19 as of availability from Pakistan Meteorological Department. So this was actually my methodology, that I have classified my research into three
in the glacier. So it is the point of consideration that why these glaciers are growing, and if these glaciers are growing, then is it having a positive effect or a negative impact on that area. So if we talk about the glacier surge or the advancement of glaciers, then it is the point when we say that it is eventually reached to the globs, because glaciers increase and they cause glacier lakes and they cause glacier lake outburst flood. As we can see that more than 200 surge-type glaciers were discovered in Khairpur. These causes globs in the region, and there was heavy flooding over the region. Moving to my study region, I have chosen 4 glaciers: Khairpur Glacier, Faiz Glacier, Khairpur and Shah. Why I choose these 4 glaciers? Because as you can see here, these 4 glaciers, this Khairpur Glacier having this glacier lake in the snout of the glacier, and all the glaciers have prominent glacier lakes here. So if these glacier lakes outburst at some point, then they will eventually affect the villages over the area. These red triangles are showing the villages over the area. So with the village, it will also affect the Khairpur highway. As it is in yellow color, you can see that in Khairpur highway. So if these glaciers are advancing, then it will eventually cause damage to the highway and to the villages, and also the agricultural activities over the area will be affected because of the advancement in glaciers. And you can see that we have the river here. So as we can see that if the glacier starting to advance, then it will affect the river as well. It will cause flooding over the region. So that is why I choose these 4 glaciers. My methodology, I have taken Sentinel-2 images because it is having a good resolution. So I have done NDSI, normalized difference, no index, on the images, and it will check the snow area and non-snow area over the region. And then I performed change detection analysis on this, and I calculated the area of the change, whether it is increasing or decreasing in the region. So I validate my results by using image classification. Accuracy assessment also being done here. I will discuss now. I will come to the results. Here you can see that in 2016 the area is decreasing from 2016 to 17, but it will eventually increase it in 2018, which is showing the anomalous behavior of the Khairpur. That at some point glaciers are decreasing, retreating, and at some point it is increasing or it is showing a surge. So these graphs, you can see the area. It is basically the area in square kilometers, and it is increasing from 2017 to 2019, and then again decreasing 2020. So it is an evidence of the Khairpur anomaly over the area. Here you can see in the left side we have NDSI, and in the right side we have image classification. It is for the validation of results. You can see the same results. You can see in the graph as well that my results are accurate, and they are proving that Khairpur anomaly is being happening in the region, and we have to do something for it. I have also validated from the eliminating kappa coefficient also for the supervised classification, and coming to the change detection. Here you can see from the graph the change detection. I have calculated in 5 classes: significant increase, increase, no change, decrease, and significant decrease. So here I have shown the graphs, but you can have a proper information about this from the map. Here you can see the snouts of the glacier. The significant increase is yellow and this orange color. So you can see clearly the yellow colors over the snouts in 2017 to 18 and 2019 to 20. So the snouts or the terminus, we can say that the glaciers are advancing from the terminus or the snout towards the local area where we have active tourism activities also and agricultural activities also. So it is basically the change detection method that I have used here. Now glacial lakes. These glacier surge automatically affects the volume of glacial lakes, that is causing flaws like outbursting of glacial lakes. So here we can see that in the Batura Lake, Pasu and Morit Lake, we have seen a clearly increase in the volume of glacial lakes in 2016 to 2020. And in the case of Atahat Lake, from 2016 to 2018, it is increasing, and then from 2018 to 2020, it is decreasing. This is basically the evidence of Karatar anomaly. We can't say that glaciers are whether surging or whether retreating. It is the instability of glacier, and it is showing anomalous behavior. So we have to do something in the area. We have to control the population there. We have to restrict tourism activities over the area, and we have a very important Karakoram highway there. So we have to protect that highway from these. It is basically due to climate change, as we all know that. So from the volume of glacial lakes are continuously increasing, as you can see in these graphs as well. Coming to the conclusion that the results show the absence of Karakoram anomaly, indicating the irregularity in data by increasing infiltration values of snow cover. And for the glacier surge, the amount of water reaching the glacial lake increasing, providing the base of increase in volume lake, which is eventually causing the loss in the region. So the point of my presentation and my topic and my research was that Karakoram anomaly is causing globes over the area, and we should act, and government should take mitigation activity plans to restrict the activities over the area. Thank you.
At Dirmat station, the highest, basically ARIMA split or distributed the data into three: ARIMA value, the actual value, and the anomaly, which are extracting up after these two. At Dirmat station, the highest value recorded in the year 1986 for Dirmat station, which is nearly 2000 millimeter rainfall, was collected in the said mid station, whereas the lowest rainfall being recorded in 1971, showing a big gap. Similarly, at Sediment station, the highest rainfall value after modeling were recorded in the year 1990, which is about 1600 millimeter, whereas the lowest being recorded in 1973, which is about 600. In the same way, at Chitranmat station, the highest rainfall was recorded in the year 1972, whereas the lowest recorded in 1964. And in these both met stations, the overall trend, which is shown by the dotted line, is rising. In the same way, at Dosh met station, the highest rainfall in millimeter was recorded in 1993, whereas the lowest being recorded in 1985. And the trend is declining, means there is a decreasing trend. Similarly, at Kalamat station, the overall trend is decreasing, and in the context of rainfall happening, the highest rainfall was recorded in 2005, which is near 1400 millimeter, whereas the lowest being recorded in 2008, and the trend is declining. This is just because of the short time period of data.
For multi-purpose dam. Now, being a geographer, it is important to tell here, this is not a story only. This entire plan is based on modeling technique. Watershed modeling technique, then geomorphometric modeling technique, and third is analytic hierarchy process model. By implementing analytic hierarchy process or multi-decision making process, I have suggested this location for multi-purpose dam. So, if we are not able to control flood in the north, so we will store the flood water in this region, and then in the dry season, the water will be used for irrigation, because this region is receiving rainfall, more rainfall in winter season and low rainfall in summer season, because it is away of the range of monsoon extent, spatial extent. That's why. And another important thing, over here we are seeing some trees. So these are the areas suggested for plantation. And the Big and Tree Tsunami project, our Green Pakistan project, is already working in this region, and the green cover has been increased because of this project. It will further enhance the retention capability of the basin. So if we are increasing the retention capability of the basin, definitely we will be able to increase the time lag required for the genesis of surface runoff. If we are increasing the lag time for surface runoff, then we are reducing the chances of flash flood genesis. If we are reducing the chances of flash flood genesis, we will be able to protect this region. Over here, there will be low chances of riverine floods. So, if we are, in short, if we are reducing the flood risk in the north, in this mountainous region, so in the plain area, in the upper Indus plain, in lower Indus plain, because this is the region which is providing water to the Indus plain, so we will be able to reduce the chances of flood in the low-lying areas. That's why I am also leaving this question on National Disaster Management Authority for Pakistan, Met Department, and Provincial Disaster Management Authority to think about the northern part of the region, northern part of Indus water system, or to work on the flood risk reduction plan, particularly for flash floods. They are only working on building up embankments along River Jhelum, along River Chenab and Ravi, which is of no use. So we must control water over here. If we are controlling water in the head region, definitely there will be no floods in the low-lying area. Our existing plan is not workable. It is not able to control the floods in Pakistan. Okay. Well, so this was all about the floods and agriculture, land exposure analysis. Now the house is open for questions.
I think, but not missed it a lot. I'm from plant sciences, but sciences at this stage, at the stage of research, are all together, and there is no difference in they bridge together at this stage. So I will talk about the mountains of Pakistan in the scenario of biogeography, agrobiodiversity and ethnoecology. There are three terms biogeography. जिस तरह मैंने कमेंट में भी कहा सर को कि बायोजियोग्राफी का रिलेशनशिप होना चाहिए, और दूसरा इसका एग्रोबायोडाइवर्सिटी के साथ चाहे फ्लड यानी फॉल फिनोमेना से लेके जो क्लाइमेट शिफ्ट है उसका क्या है, और फिर उसमें एंथ्रोपोजेनिक जो है उस इकोलॉजी को हमारा जो एथनिक ग्रुप से वो कैसे चेंज कर रहे हैं. ये बड़ा लंबा प्रेजेंटेशन है, but I will skip some of the slides. This is Swat Valley. Just an introduction about the place where I born. And this is my village, a small village inside Delhi. And the objective of this presentation is just to introduce the world's highest mountain system, Himalaya, Hindu Kush and Karakoram, in terms of biogeography, agrobiodiversity and ethnoecology, and what is their importance and how the climate change shift these mountains. These are the contents of this talk, but I will, as I said, I will skip some of the things. I will mainly emphasize the plant endemism, because when the climate change happens, it affects the endemic plants, the plants which can grow only in these mountains or in Pakistan. So, because we have been given with 10 minutes time, this is the geographer know much better the tropical, subtropical, temperate and alpine distribution of plants and vegetation over the globe. And then how climate defines the boundaries of vegetation. So in the galaxy of geographer, I'm not going into details, but geography shape botany or shape plants as well. And over the globe, you can read the forest types the global forest types. And the temperate vegetation, because Pakistani mountains are talking about mountains, and the mountains above certain level from sea, that is about 1200 to 1300, the ecosystem become temperate, and our Himalaya, Hindu Kush and Karakoram are mainly temperate ecosystems. And when we come to Pakistan, everyone knows and everyone tells that we have a different kind of landscape from below sea level up to K2, about 9,000 meters from sea level. And due to that, we have a lot of biodiversity, especially phytodiversity and plant diversity. And why these mountains are important? They meet at the point of juggalo. And these are important because due to these mountain systems, the world's highest population, the population of China, Pakistan, India, this is due to these mountains, because the mountains give rise to water in the form of rivers, and these rivers then give us crops and so on. And you know about Himalaya, Karakoram and Hindu Kush, I'm not going to great detail. But Pakistan is very important because it is on the border, some of its northern areas are on the fault line, on the border of Eurasian and Indian plate. And the geologists know that the region which is the coinciding place of two plates, it gives rise to different kinds of flora, different kinds of plants. Because in the ancient past, when there was Tethyan Sea, so Eurasian plate from north and or Indian plate from south and collide with the place of Kahan Maran, that is known as Kahan Maran eclogite. It gives rise to two kinds of flora. One flora from Central Asia and China, and another flora from south, that is paleotropical sort of flora. So you know about the Karakoram, 500 kilometer length more or less, and these are certain glimpses. Some of my PhDs have worked in Karakoram, so these are pictures from one of my PhDs here from Skardu, and his research work. And then the Himalayas, you know that the world's largest mountain system, Karakoram is there, and plants are there. And this is the Naran Valley, which is the place of my PhD studies. And then Hindu Kush mountain range, geographers know its location and everything. And these are certain picture glimpses of Hindu Kush range and how the people live there. Then Suleiman range, and one of my students work in Kuram Agency, and these are pictures from Zidan Valley of Kuram Agency in Lakaban border, West area. And these are certain damages during the militancy war. And then I will come to the distribution. We have coastal mangroves, dry tropical forest, subtropical forest, temperate forest, and alpine forest. I will go very rapidly from this slide just to reach to plant endemism. And you know that what kind of plants occur in different ecosystems, temperate, tropical, subtropical, temperate, and alpine. And then the total forest cover is 4.8%, which is far below the international standards. And then we have some amazing pastures as well in our alpine region. And then I will come to some archaeological findings which tells that the main civilization which happened in Yangtze Valley, Indus Valley, and fertile crescent of Mesopotamia, the Nile River and Euphrates and those areas. And these are the places of plants migration or seed domestication. So the crop domestication started from these valleys. And these are our research collaborators and groups. And when we come to the plants, so there are more than 4 plant species in the world. Out of these, about 35,000 are medicinal in nature. And in Asia, there are 6,500 medicinal plants. In Unani, 21,000 plants. And all these climate shifts affect the wild plants alongside the crops as well. So we have to think about the wild plants as well. As I mentioned that I will focus on plant endemism. Why mountains are important and why Pakistan is important? Pakistan is custodian of 3 largest mountain ranges, as I mentioned. And these mountain ranges, when we talk about the phytogeography, so this place, the blue color line is Holo-Arctic Kingdom in phytogeography. Holo-Arctic Kingdom has 64 endemic families of plants. And Paleotropical Kingdom, this yellow color, it includes 36 endemic families of plants, which are not happening in the Holo-Arctic. And Pakistan is the junction place of both kingdoms. There are very few countries of the world which enjoy the nature of 2 kingdom system. There are 5 kingdom system. This was devised by a Russian phytogeographer Taftajan, who wrote very best books, 2 books, one plant taxonomy, another is phytogeography. So Pakistan is part of Paleotropical, and in Paleotropical it has a African subkingdom, Sudano-Zimbabwean region, and South Iranian and Sindhian province, and it has unique plants. And similarly, it has Holo-Arctic vegetation or Holo-Arctic flora from Irano-Turanian region of northern Balochistan, western Himalayan and Tibetan province. I'm not talking about the administrative provinces, and these are the floristic provinces of Pakistan. This is western Himalayan province, this is South Iranian province, North Balochistan province, and this is Indo-Malaysian region near Sialkot, and this whole is Sindhian province. And the monsoon belt in the mountain range is Sino-Japanese pattern. So this pattern starts from Korea and reaches up to Panchkoda river, as mentioned by Shakil Sahab, where the monsoon range reaches. And this kind of classification gives us to these 5 different kinds of provinces. And this is the reason that Pakistan floristically one of the diverse country in the world. And we are also having special number of endemic plants as well. So these are the provinces. You can see those floristic provinces, not administrative provinces. And when we talk about the endemic plants, endemic are those which are grown in one area but not present in the others. So Pakistan boasts about 400 endemic plants. And these endemic plants are extremely fragile to climate change. When climate change happens, first of all, it affects the endemic plants, because the endemic plants have very narrow range of distribution, very narrow ecological amplitude. And due to that narrow ecological amplitude, the endemic plants are affected at the start of any change in the climate, whether it is precipitation phenomena or temperature range, etc. So Pakistan hosts 5 genera, these Dotia, Suleimania, Coremiana, Windelboa, and Spiroceres, which are complete genus which are endemic, which are present only in Pakistan. So what is the point of my emphasis? If these endemic plants disappear from Pakistan, it means they disappear from the world. And if they disappear from the world, it means we have some reduction in the gene pool. And I will link it to the Nobel laureate Borlaug. Borlaug was a creator of Mexipak wheat, due to which the hunger finished and due to whom the Green Revolution happens. So Borlaug, what Borlaug did? Borlaug takes some genes against the rust disease of wheat from Thinophyrum, a plant, a grass, and another, Ageloptaceae, another grass. And he transferred those genes to wheat crop. So, suppose if Agelop and Thinophyrum were not there, so how he could aid those genes, how could he aid or transfer those genes from Thinophyrum or Agelop to wheat? So that's why I emphasize that endemic plants are important. Once they disappear, we will not have them forever, and they can be a source of resistance genes. As I mentioned, that against the rust gene, rust disease, the gene was transferred from another grass. So endemic plants are extremely important in the scenario of climate change. And why they are important? Because they have very small population size, restricted geographical areas, habitat specificity, little genetic variability, and limitation of dispersal and migration. Some plants disperse widely, cosmopolitanly distributed, and some have very narrow range, and endemic have very narrow range. And what are the threats to these endemics? Mainly anthropogenic threats like habitat loss, habitat degradation, poor exploitation, invasive species, fragmentation, and climate change, of course. And then, how to conserve these endemic plants? So first of all, we don't have the baseline data. In IUCN, International Union for Conservation of Nature, devised different categories for plants, and our endemic plants have not been categorized so far. It needs the input of geographer as well as plant scientists, because the occupancy level, the range of occurrence, it is important, it is linked to geography. So geographer can work on endemic plants as well. And how to conserve this is, I mentioned baseline studies, identification of topographic and climatic factor, limitation, population trends, conservation status, application of modern approaches as mentioned by many of us in the form of radar technology or GIS techniques, etc. And this is one of the case study from my PhD. This is a slide from Naran Valley. That Naran Valley hosts 64 endemic plants out of those 400 from these 3 mountain systems. So this is a sketch of Naran Valley. That at the basin of the valley, there are 5 endemics, and some of them are endangered, some of them are critically endangered. Endangered and critically endangered are some botanical terms which are used for those plants which are in risk in near future. And all these plants can be linked to all the calamities and the disasters like flood and things like that. Because in Naran Valley and in those alpine region, if I take the alpine community, the 5th community, there are 8 critically endangered and 19 endemic plants. So if plants are not present in the alpine region, the glaciers start from the first drop of snow over there. So we had to focus on those endemics. And these are the distribution of some of the endemics of Pakistan. For example, these are botanical, very difficult names. Pseudomortensia trolleyi and its distribution. So it's endemic to Pakistan, and you can say that it is distributed only in Hazara and Kashmir region. So in the whole world, these plants happen in this particular zone of Hazara and Kashmir, not elsewhere. Similarly, Primula hazarika, only in Hazara division. Similarly, Anemone falconeri in some region of KP. You can see the distribution in plants. Pseudomortensia molcodioides, and Swertia thompsoni. Swertia thompsoni is a plant, medicinal plant, and it is on the list of CITES. CITES is the Convention of International Trade of Endangered Species. You cannot sell out this species from the country. So this is an extremely important species and grow in these mountains. And then these are the issues were exploitation, deforestation, timber wood collection, and medicinal plants collection, unwise collection that people collect one plant but damage all the nearby plants. And then fodder collection, unwise fodder collection, they cut all the plants. Then formation of dams. Shakil Saab has talked about dams, but usually we conservationists are against a lot of dam construction because they damage our biodiversity. And then pollution, and then invasive species. You know that Parthenium, you can see in the picture, and this ox-eye daisy. These have taken the habitat of nature plants. And then the agricultural expansion in the mountainous range, the people used to remove snow cover and grow the short season crops. and deer overgrazing. You can see that where the snow melts, the grazer reaches, and the plants don't have the time to flourish. And you can see the extensive grazing. So there must be some mechanism for alternative grazing, like in developed nations, they graze one mountain 1 year and the others in the next year. But in Pakistan, if you visit any picnic point in Swat, Kalam, Kumrat and Naran, you can see the huge anthropogenic pressure in the form of grazing, tourists, etc. And then those grazing and all those things give rise to erosion. And when we talk about the erosion, and when we talk about the flash in the river flood, it can easily be linked to the anthropogenic activities and the occurrence of plants, and the occurrence of especially those endemic plants, which have very narrow range of distribution. And then in some areas we have the problem of fire. Some human give intentional fire to get wood for timber and for fuel wood and so on. And when we talk about the Himalayas in Karakoram and Hindu Kush, so this is the biodiversity hotspot. There are only a few hotspots in the world, and you can see this Hindu Kush Himalaya region in the hotspot, and 25% of unique flora is present in these mountains. In developing countries where we stand, over there, nowhere, far away, somewhere, no idea, not sure, uncertain, distant, and question mark. And still we haven't taken our reverse gear as well. When we will take the reverse? Sorry. And this is the Lalazar in Naran Valley, a picnic spot, but it has been damaged by the agriculture extension. And these are some of the wild food. And in the era of shortage of food security, we need to introduce some wild food in our food system as well, and which can come from these mountains. And we have the river systems, the best river system. I'm not going to detail, just going through the slides, and our beautiful lakes. So we have the potential of tourism as well, and our bridges, and you all are familiar with those, barrages, canal systems, our fruits. But what will happen when Sanaullah Sahab was telling about the pollution in the plastic and the sewage water, what will be the food safety apart from food security? Scientists are working very extensively, especially plant scientists, agriculture, agrarian scientists, to overcome the food shortage and food security. But now there is a big issue of
one of the most devastating hydrometeorological disasters causing human losses and damages to properties and services. As in yesterday, in one presentation, one of our respected geographers was saying that the climate change has two main consequences. One is flood and another one is drought. So here this thing is about flood. Generally, flood is caused by heavy melting of snow and glacier. And we know that the melting of snow and glacier is caused by increasing temperature trend across the globe. Alongside the geomorphological characteristics of the basin or the catchment area and hydrological reaction of the basin. Because here I have targeted a physical region, and I will be talking in a physical region. Physical region have certain responses to rainfall, certain responses to temperature trend, and because of those responses, we have floods or droughts in certain regions. It has been spatio-statistically estimated that frequency and magnitude of flooding has been increased in the recent past. And because of that, we have high intensities of rainfall events. Means the high magnitude rainfall events have been increased. Now these events are frequent. We are observing the urban floods, we are observing the flash floods in the mountainous region, and then as we are moving to the plain areas like Indus Plain, Upper Indus Plain and Lower Indus Plain, so over there we have major floods, riverine floods having consequences, and the impact of those consequences is on human life and human activities. Consequently, the physical and economic vulnerabilities have been multiplied in the recent past, And because of these vulnerabilities, the risk of flood is higher in most of the region, particularly the areas located in the northwest of Pakistan. And this is one of the physical regions in the northwest of Pakistan known as Panchkoda Basin. Panchkoda is the right-hand tributary of River Swat, and River Swat is the main tributary of River Khabur. This region is spatially extended over 6,000 square kilometer area, and administratively it is covered District B Upper, District B Lower, and the newly formed District Bajo Regency. Okay, next. Now, the important features regarding this physical region is the northern part of this physical region is dominated by flash floods. Now, here we have flash floods, while in this region, we have plain area, and this plain area is exposed to riverine floods. Now, in this one unit, we have two types of floods, and these floods are destructive for human life, infrastructure, and properties. Next. Okay, next. Next, please. Now, what I have done basically to dominate the flood in this region. Because the region is dominated by flash flood in the north, and in the south we have riverine floods. इसको आगे लेके जाएं? जी हाँ. और now, this is the region dominated by flash flood, and in this region we have riverine flood. Now, look into the zones of flash flood susceptibility. So, the areas which are demarcated by red cones having high frequency of flash floods. And these flash floods are causing human losses, and based on the title of this conference, it is highly destructive for the agricultural land as well. Okay, moving on. Next. And this is the methodology used for flash flood modeling. Wait, next. Now, looking to the 2000 flood disaster. 2000 flood disaster was one of the destructive major flood in Pakistan. And the main causes of 2010 floods were basically the extraordinary activity of monsoon rainfall in the northwest of Pakistan, where this region is located. And this is basically the 2010 flood. And this 2010 flood, based on probabilistic modeling, it was 153-year flood. Means for the first time the region has experienced a flood of 153 years. So we cannot plan for 100 years because it will be not workable. That's why we have 200-year flood forecast for this region, and 200-year flood having magnitude of 191,903 cusics, which is too much big or high magnitude for this region. Okay, you can move on this first. Now, as most of the region is exposed to flash flood, and this is the region which is exposed to riverine flood. So we can see that, and this is being modeled by implementing spatial hydrological model, HRAS, HGRAS, and based on that we have spatial extent of the flood in this region. So the different colors are showing different recurrence interval, like for 10-year floods. So we can see this is the most important one, 200-year flood. And in 200-year flood, we have many villages or human settlements which will be submerged in flood. So what will happen? Again, damages, destruction, and human losses. Okay, okay, move on. This is very important. Highly important thing that the average depth of 200-year flood will be 9.3 meter. So 9.3 meter depth, it is not manageable in such type of region or in such type of physiography, because this is valley which is narrow in the north, and as we are moving towards the south, so the valley becomes broader. while the maximum depth level is 19.3 meter. Now, most of the bridges constructed over this river, the height of these bridges are 9 meter. Now, we have 9 meter high bridges, while the average depth of flood will be 9.3 if it comes. So we must prepare ourselves. Disaster preparedness is highly important for this region, because if 200 inch flood comes, it will destroy all the villages. Whatever comes in its way, it will burst the valley. It will damage the bridges, roads, and settlements located in this region, because this region is highly populated, densely populated region. We have an urban area over here. No, so the urban area is at high risk, high population region. Most of the economic activities are also concentrated in this region. Commercial activities are concentrated in this region, and we have also agricultural land in this region as well. Commercial agricultural land. So next. Well, this is the estimated economic value of the elements at risk. I will be focusing on this in agricultural land. 3,373.5 hectares. They are exposed to flood. And alongside, you can see that roads and then retaining walls, bridges. This will be the total economic loss caused by 200-year flood if it comes. 780 million, 621 million, and roads are infrastructure sector will be most affected. Still, after 11 years, the damaged bridges are still damaged. There is no rehabilitation. Although we need reconstruction, means changing in engineering design of the bridges. So if we are not moving towards the reconstruction plan to make changes in the engineering structure of the bridges and to increase its height, then again we will be facing this type of this amount of economic loss, and it is not manageable for a country like Pakistan, because we are developing economy. We belong to developing economy, and for a developing economy it is not possible over an area of 6,000 square kilometers. If it hits an extensive area, then what will happen? Like we have examples of 2010, 2014, and then 2016. We have faced these floods. Okay, how about that? This is the main story. In this region, the green tone is representing the agricultural land. There is changes in rainfall pattern, there are changes in temperature pattern, and these changes in rainfall pattern is causing flash floods and riverine floods in this region. So in this physical unit we have this agricultural land. 46% of the total area is covered by agricultural land. And this agricultural land is based on subsistence farming. The people are earning their livelihood from subsistence agriculture, where the average per month income of the farmer is nearly 20,000 rupees. So and the average family size is 8 persons. Now, a family having eight persons having 20,000 per month income, how they will manage damages in this agricultural land? Because they are not able to run their kitchen expenses. So it will be too much danger for the people. Then out of the total, next object, out of the total, 76% of the agricultural land is exposed to flash flood, because this region is dominated by flash flood, while only in this region we have riverine flood, and 24% of the agricultural land is exposed to riverine flood. Now, this is not the end of story. Next object, when? On one side, the agricultural land is exposed to floods, riverine floods and flash floods, while the remaining agricultural land is exposed to heavy surface runoff. So it means 100% of the agricultural land is exposed, and the agricultural land is at high risk. So there is need of management. There is need to reduce the risk faced by agricultural land. and we can see that. And this is the maximum depth of surface runoff caused by rainfall in this region. So most of the remaining agricultural land is located in an area having surface runoff of more than 250 millimeter up. This is a question I'm leaving on you people, that an area having surface runoff of 250 millimeter depth. So how we can manage these things? We must increase the retention capability of the basin. If we are increasing the retention capability of the basin, then we will increase the lake time for the genesis of surface runoff, and in this way we will reduce the risk of damages to the agricultural land. And if we are reducing the risk of or the lake time for the genesis of surface runoff, in this way we will be able to reduce the risk of floods. Okay, are we done? Well, now what we need? Are we like? Yes. Take off, make it one more. Yes. Take off. Now, based on geography, based on the geomorphometric character of this basin, based on the surface runoff, and based on the drainage pattern of this region, I have suggested a flood risk reduction plan for this region. And based on this flood risk reduction plan, we can reduce the occurrence of flood in future, or we can reduce the frequency of major floods. Now, structural measures. A Doppler weather radar is recommended for this region because this region is out of the reach of existing Doppler weather radar network. It is located in the northeast of Pakistan. So if we have satellite images based on radar technology, those images will have error. So based on those images having error or ambiguity, we cannot issue warning, flood warning. That's why, and this Doppler weather radar will be beneficial for upper catchment of.
सर उस पर आप एक वेबसाइट नोट डाउन कर लें, studyinturkey.gov.tr, ये गवर्नमेंट की वेबसाइट है. किसी और एजेंट से प्लीज रब्ता ना करें. आजकल जो हालात हैं कि लोग 3,000 $5,000 $5,000 दे के वो एडमिशन दे रहे हैं मामूली से डिपार्टमेंट्स में. ये पेरेंट्स के लिए भी है, ये प्रोफेसर्स के लिए भी है. तो जस्ट इट्स अ हम्बल रिक्वेस्ट, मेरी तरफ से एक मैसेज है. दूसरे हर चीज़ के प्रोन कॉन भी होते हैं, यानी आपको ये भी ध्यान में रखना चाहिए कि टर्की में इंग्लिश मीडियम जो कोर्सेज हैं वो बहुत थोड़े हैं. कीप इन माइंड, वहाँ टर्किश मीडियम है स्पेशली अंडर ग्रेड स्टूडेंट्स के लिए मैं कहना चाहूँगा, यानी स्पेशली मेडिकल के स्टूडेंट्स के लिए अगर कोई जानने वाला है या कोई भी है तो वहाँ पे आपको टर्किश लैंग्वेज सीखना पड़ती है. दैट्स अ बिग प्रॉब्लम. ठीक है ना, although सॉल्व हो जाती है, लेकिन इफ़ यू हैव अदर अपॉर्चुनिटीज यू शुड अप्लाई फॉर दैट. और किसी भी किस्म का अगर आपने इन्फॉर्मेशन लेनी है तो आप मतलब एक्यूरेट इन्फॉर्मेशन लें, जो गवर्नमेंट की एजेंसीज हैं उनसे लें. डू नॉट गो टू एनी एजेंट्स और पैसा दें और चीज़ बस में तुर्की जाना है. ठीक है, थैंक यू वेरी मच. एंड वी आर
AWS automated weather stations. So inshallah, in near future, we will have hundreds of AWS all over the country, and this region also included. And my question is that, as you mentioned the Haycross model and AHP, analytical runoff process. So, sir, what are the parameters when you for catchment area? What are the parameters for Haycross model you have collected or considered?
Well,
and one more. And in AHP, weightage. In AHP, the weightage of the contributors. How would you assign the weightage to the contributors in AHP? And one last thing,
yes.
If you, what is the accuracy of Haycross model?
Well, 3 questions.
Yeah, almost 3 questions.
Well, so well, 3 questions from one of our respected colleagues. That the first thing, Haycross model. The parameters for a cross model, I have used two types of main parameters, hydraulic parameters and hydrological parameters. In hydraulic parameters, the input data was digital elevation model, and then based on the digital elevation model, the Hek GeoRAS developed or modeled the cross sections of this river. And based on the cross sections and banks of the river and flow direction of the river, we transported the hydraulic parameters to the HEC-RAS, and then in the HEC-RAS, the main input parameter is discharge of the river. So by interacting hydraulic and hydrological parameters, we have the spatial extent of flood and the vertical profile of flood. This is the first answer. The second answer, AHP, analytic hierarchy process. The input parameters in analytical hierarchy process is first rainfall, the rainfall pattern of this region, and before answering, I'm highly thankful that you are saying that this
the form of floods and many other things interested in domestic waste also. And so despite this, we are still not aware of the sensitivity of this issue. We are not aware, we are not that much educated. So today, but here, another group of the people who says that the climate is changing. The climate change is positively or negatively. Definitely, we know, we all know, because you are a scholar, educated person, that climate is being changed. But positively and also negatively, but positively is also changing. Because there are, the 100,000 years, the climate, there's glaciation periods and interglaciation periods that comes within 100,000 years. Right now we are surviving the interglaciation period that is now presently this time. This is now Holocene period, and now the changes, the ices, we are going towards the ices also. So some of the people are saying that temperature is also decreasing on the earth. But the intensity of increasing and intensity of climate change positively or negatively, what is the intensity? Definitely intensity, we will see from the These are the outlines. Those are the present, introduction, conclusions, astronomical changes, human-induced climate change, carbon impacts, communication and agriculture, impact on agriculture. The global climate change, that we know the climate is globally changing, and some of the people are of opinion that it's short and there is no climate change. But all this, to hide their, the bad activities. Astronomical changes are going on, definitely, those I showed you in my slides. Human-induced climate, that is known by everyone. And industrial, it has started since industrial revolution, that is known to you. That after the, when the industrialization started, and after 1850, it was the same time when it was era of transition of agri to agri-studied urban society. So the urbanization that time was also started, and urbanization and industrialization, both are responsible for climate change. And after that, and with the help of the coal, your steam engines, they started to pollute climate. Then after till 1950, they used the coal, and after the hydrocarbon is working. And today, about 90 million barrels oil per day is being used for transportation, for industry, for automobiles. So the story started since 1850, around 1850. And in response of this, carbon dioxide exponentially increasing. Till 1990, carbon dioxide was about, that initially it was less than 300 ppm parts per million, initially thinking. But in 1990 it was about 350. And today, September, NASA report is that today is 470 ppm, September report. 412. It means that if it will exceed 450, most of the people have opinion that we cannot come back. We cannot decrease the carbon from the atmosphere. So carbon is increasing the main responsibility, and till 90, 1 degree temperature was increased, and from 90 to 2020, 1 more degree average temperature of the world was increased, and this is not disastrous, but disaster will come when in per decade we will increase 1 degree of temperature. Increasing temperature is not that much issue, but extreme climatic changes, those will be appear over the surface of the earth. Those you have also seen will be more disastrous. So, and its local impact will also be seen. I will show you some of my slides also. So, this is a question that is there really climate change? Most of that, as I said, that most of the people are of opinion that there is no climate change, and those are the people who are responsible for the climate change. Is this human-induced or astronomical? If both the processes are going on parallel, which one is accelerating more? Is the climate change disaster or just weather change? So, I told you that there are some of the changes astronomically occur over the surface of the earth. So, and last century, in the first of the last century, Milankovitch, he was a certain scientist, he made a hypothesis that some astronomical changes are being occurred, some of which are eccentricity, obliquity and precision. Eccentricity means the earth moves around its orbit. When it moves around its orbit, it takes, sometimes it changes the shape of the earth. Obliquity is actually, the axis of the rotation of the earth from north pole to south pole, right? It sometimes changes. Right now it is on the 33.4 degree tilted presently, but it never remains on the same position. It sometimes tilted at 22 degree. It is started from 22 degree and 22.1 to 24.5 degree. So we are on the mid right now. So this is the north pole, this is south pole, this is tilted, and it takes this way. I will show you my slides. And similarly the precision, like जैसे वो लट्टू होता है, वो होता है तो घूमता रहता है ना, तो similarly the precision is also taking place in north and south pole, and the direction of axis is also changes. And these are not, within days are not happens. It takes time, thousands of years. You can see here, the shape of the orbit is being changed, and right now we are elliptical. Presently we are in elliptical condition. Oh, sorry, we are in circular condition. And circular condition means insolation is almost, from both the sides. And this circulation, it's a revolution around the sun in 12 months. So sometimes the shapes are changed in 100,000 years. See, when you know that there is elliptical movement, it means that the closer area gets 23% more radiations, and the area that is away from the sun gets 33% less. But when it moves circularly, so equal energy radiation is received. So right now we are on phase when it moves elliptically, means that less radiation will be received by the sun and temperature will be decreased. Similarly, this type of movement happens that I told you that it tilted right now. When it tilted, there is some issue, I think. It is tilt. You can see. Okay, this tilt is it takes thousands it takes about 41,000 years to move its tilt from 22.4 degree to 22.1 degree to 24.5 degree. And when it comes closer, when the northern portion, when we're facing the sun this way, it means the northern pole will get more radiation. When it will get more radiation, then temperature of the northern hemisphere and near the polar side will be increased. So, and this way, the northern polar side ice will be melted. So these are another way. This is another way. So, sorry, another slides have been disappeared now. So, when it rotates, the axis of rotation change with the span of time. And this way, this position will also astronomically change the, the climate over the surface of the Earth. So, human-induced climate, the observations throughout the world make it clear that the climate change is occurring, and rigorous scientific research demonstrates that the greenhouse gases emitted by the human activity are primary driver of. It was the definition defined by the different organizations, scientific organizations, American Association of Advanced Sciences, American Geophysical Union, Intergovernmental Panel of countries, and many other organizations of the world, NASA even. All the stakeholders of the world are agreed that the climate is being changed. This is, as I told you, the evidence that shows that the ppm of the carbon is being increased. After 1950, it never happens in the last 1 million years. The rate of carbon dioxide never exceeds 300. When you study the atmosphere, when you study the climate, you can see that the composition, carbon dioxide is between 300 in old books. But after 50, it is exceeded from the 300, and today it is 470 ppm. That is increasing. So similarly, this is the temperature that is being increased day by day, and you can see initially the slope of the polyline graph is gentler, but after 90 it has been steeper, and it will be more steeper. Temperature will accelerate with higher rate. So this is disastrous. Now this is the North Pole area, and initially in 1970, since 1970 the area was covered by 7 million square kilometers. Right now, less than between 4 to 3 million square kilometers is covered by. So how much area has been, melted from the North Pole, Antarctica? This is the position of the, upper Arctic. This is the position of the southern hemisphere, pole of the southern hemisphere, Antarctic. And similarly, the situation is more better in southern hemisphere compared to the northern hemisphere, because most of the human people activities and everything are over the northern hemisphere. But despite this, since 1950, you can see the decreasing rate of covered area of that area. It means that initially our area was not being decreased because it is totally snow covered area. But since 1950, the area is also decreasing over there. So these are some of the evidences that you can see. This is Alaska, and you can see that from one picture, 1941 it was taken in 1941, and another picture was taken in 2004. In 2004, you can see that still the over there. But actually the climate has been changed. Ice has been melted. Similarly, the same area, you can see where a lake has been created over there in around 50 years. This is also the Himalaya, and the southern side there is Kilimanjaro, East Africa, near the Rift Valley, where there is the hilly area where you can see that initially there was the snow covered area. Right now the snow covered area has been decreased. So there are a lot of evidences that could show to you, but because of the shortage of time, I couldn't show you much more. But the main causes are the greenhouse gases now you see. Water vapors, carbon dioxide, methane, nitrogen dioxide. Water vapors, the activity is very different. And when the temperature will increase, the more as the abundance of water vapors will be, water will convert into the vapors. So it will retain heat. Similarly, the carbon dioxide, it has from 1890. Where 1850, since today 48% has increased. You can see, before it was less than 300 ppm, right now 420, about 420. So methane, these are main gases. Those are produced from the waste materials and everything. Nitrous oxides and fluorocarbons, those are the getting the ozone layer. So these are the gases who are responsible for mainly responsible to change the climate, to change the whole story. So what is the global effect? Global temperature will continue to rise. Where at upper latitude, frost-free seasons will increase. The frost-free seasons, area of the frost-free seasons will increase, and the present area will be seen over there in the northern hemisphere, where there is a frost covered area, snow covered area. Precipitation events will be increased over there. In some of the places, drought conditions will be increased. Definitely, in some places of the world, precipitation, the extreme conditions, climatic conditions will be increased. In some places, drought conditions will increase and intensity, frequency, duration of cyclones will also increase. So sea level has increased, has rise, so this process will continue. And it is probable that the Antarctic will be ice free. As I shown in myself that more near about 50% has been melted. So from 7 million square kilometer to 4 million, less than 4 million square kilometer. And some of the because sea level rise, Miami, Shanghai, most of the cities could be undercovered, could be covered by water. So now Pakistan is the climate, according to the climate risk index, Pakistan is one of the located in a high climate risk region. According to the German Watch report from 1990 to 2018, Pakistan listed Pakistan in under the 5 most affected countries of the world. So Pakistan is not on a good position in good its location, its activities, population, and its management and many other things. Variations, local variations, there are the variations in the climatic elements, those who have seen impact on the climate change and micro shifts of the climate. This is debatable, but these variations are seen in Pakistan. I will show you some of the slides, those I have brought over there because every man cannot do work in all the sectors. So I will show you some of these. This is the coastline that has been changed. So there are many coastlines since 1895 to 2007, and you cannot you can see that there is a variation. Most of the area coastline has retreated. But in last, you can see the graph, the rate of retreat was higher in 2002 to 2007. So here you can see the rate was presently the retreat rate is near 29.76 from 2000. It was rate of the 2000 to 2007, but till 2007 I have also worked in 2017 also, but it was I couldn't get it. So, but this you can see that at the rate of 30 meters per year, coastline is retreating right now. This is because one of the main factors is also the climate. Water scarcity is another issue. So these are the areas, these are the different slides that you can show, that you can see. The first slide is the the area was from 1895 to 2007 and 78, and from 78 to 2000 and from 2000 to 2008. These are the submerged and emerged area in the coastline, and you can see the submerged area are higher than emerged area. There are accretion forces also. Some of the sand is by the waves are deposited on the land. These processes also occur, but retreat rate is higher. So similarly, you can see the submergence area in 1895. You can see that there 331 square kilometer from 1895 to 1978 has been submerged, and similarly 2000 to 2007 76 square kilometer area has been submerged. So the submergence area, rate of submergence is higher near the coast in Pakistan.
Professor Dr. Professor Dr. Mamta Hussain Yudhendra Saab, and Professor Dr. Muhammad Ibrahim Kilo Saab. Assalamu alaikum. इन खां अलावा मुंहिंजा हेठि वेठल सभु दोस्त कोलीग्स चइनी सूबनि खां अलावा कश्मीर मां आहिनि, मुंहिंजा कोलीग्स स्टूडेंट्स मीडिया पर्सन्स एंड सिक्योरिटी वाला, उनमें रेंजर्स पुलिस ऐं असांजा जेके लोकल सिक्योरिटी वारा आहिनि, ऐं सभिनी जो थोराइजो आहियां जंहिं प्रोग्राम खे हिन तरफ़ वठी आया आहिनि। मूंखे इहो शेर यादि अचे थो त कॾहिं खां तमामु मियां ॿार मुंहुं में ई आहे, मुंहुं मतिलबु हुनजो ई मूंखे लॻे क्लाइमेट चेंज दैट्स एरो विच हैव यूज़्ड अस, ऐं उहो असांखे ई लॻो। जस्ट सिंपली ॻाल्हाईंदे जे लाइ जेको असांजो प्रोग्राम आहे उन ते फ्यू वर्ड्स आहे। क्लाइमेट चेंज जो हिन खिते में सभ खां वॾे में वॾो जेको इम्पैक्ट पियो आहे उहो आहे घटो ऐं गति। 200 एकड़ ज़मीन पर एकड़ सी वाटर इंटीरियर जे अंदरि हली थी वञे। गेटी बंदर was a famous city once. गेटी बंदर financial support the Karachi municipal, पर उहो गेटी बंदर जे म्यूनिसिपल हिन वक़्तु को 20 किलोमीटर समुंड जे अंदरि आहे। near Ahipur. This is very tricky. That's main effect. लास्ट डे में हमने एक बात की थी यहाँ पे कि पाकिस्तान 2019 में 250 मिलियन मैट्रिक टन कार्बन डाइऑक्साइड रिलीज कर रहा है और 120 मिलियन कार्बन डाइऑक्साइड वो अब्जॉर्ब कर रहा है, मगर एक्सेस अमाउंट है दैट विल बी कॉस्ट। पाकिस्तान की जो बॉर्डर है वो चाइना और इंडिया के साथ मिलती है और बोथ कंट्रीज एक कॉम्पैक्ट है इकोनॉमिकली, जो इंडस्ट्री को आगे बढ़ाना चाहते हैं। और पंजाब में विंटर सीजन में जो पॉल्यूशन होती है इस सब में कॉज आता है, तो यहाँ पे हम इस तरह से जा रहे हैं। तो आई एम हैप्पी टू शेयर विद यू दैट 125 such paper received for that is very huge amount. But from the technical committee, 110 papers were accepted and published in the proceeding book. But few engagement, lot of scholars attend the conference. But on the environmental section, foreigners from Germany, Italy, Spain, and Turkey were there. So this is very interesting. मुझे सिर्फ एक और बात करनी है, वो ये है कि अगर आप ये समझते हैं कि ये प्रोग्राम कामयाब हुआ है तो मेरा कोई किरदार नहीं है इसमें। ऑर्गेनाइजर्स, वॉलंटियर्स, स्पेशली फ्रॉम माय डिपार्टमेंट, ऐं उन सभिनी जे पोयां जेको किरदारु आहे उहो साईं जो आहे। ऐं इन जे पोयां जेकॾहिं अव्हां इहो सम्झो था त किथे हीअ मिस्टेक थी आहे, हीअ शइ बि हुजणु खपे, यकीन थियूं आहिनि, थियूं बि हूंदियूं, ऐं हिन तरफ़ नाकामी आहे, आई ओन इट, ऐं हिनजो जवाबदार आहियां। जेके मिस्टेक्स थियूं आहिनि आई ओन इट, इन जो जवाबदार आहियां। जेका कामयाबी थी आहे उहा सभु जो सभु जेका थी आहे इन वॉलंटियर्स जे करे, इन ऑर्गेनाइज़र्स जे करे, ऐं उहा साईं जे करे आहे। ऐं जेके बि शयूं आहिनि उन्हनि जो जवाबदार आहियां। इन में ॿी का राय कान्हे, घणो टाइम न वठंदुसि। आख़िर में रिकमेंडेशंस एंड जेके असांजूं सजेशंस जो आहिनि उन वी हैव मेड अ पैनल ऑफ एक्सपर्ट्स, डॉक्टर गोहर साहब, डॉक्टर शुजा मलक साहब, डॉक्टर तारिक इब्राहिम साहब और डॉक्टर शकील साहब उसमें हैं, और हमने कुछ ड्राफ्ट बनाई है और हम उनको फाइनल करेंगे आज, और वी सेंड इट टू द रिलेटेड पर्सन्स जो होते हैं, रिलेटेड डिपार्टमेंट्स जो होते हैं, उनको हम अप्रूवल के बाद हम भेजें। और लास्ट कॉन्फ्रेंस में हमने यही किया था कि हमारा जो यहाँ पे मकसद है वो क्या है और हमें क्या रिकमेंडेशन मिली है, क्या सजेशंस मिली हैं। तो एक बात हम जोग्राफी वालों जो यहाँ पे स्टूडेंट्स बैठे हैं जोग्राफी के, उनके लिए एक और बात है कि हमने पीएमडी पाकिस्तान मेट्रोलॉजिकल डिपार्टमेंट से सिर्फ ये नहीं है कि हमने उनके साथ एमओयू साइन किया है डिपार्टमेंट ऑफ जोग्राफी, बट हमने ये भी किया है कि भाई अब आप हमसे ताउन करें, क्योंकि वाइस चांसलर साहब जब इस्लामाबाद में जमा था तो उनके पास बड़े रिसोर्सेज थे। हमने जब यहाँ पे विजिट किया तो हम चाहते हैं कि ये यूनिवर्सिटी उन रिसोर्सेज से कुछ फ़ायदा भी ले। तो हम चाहते हैं कि भाई GIS की या क्लाइमेट चेंज की वो ऐसी डिग्री होगी जो हम HEC की अप्रूवल के साथ जो 2 साल हम पढ़ाएं, 2 साल वो पढ़ाएं इस्लामाबाद में, और वो हम वो डिग्री स्टार्ट करें। तो होपफुली हम इस तरह भी जा रहे हैं। ऑन द लास्ट, क्योंकि वाइस चांसलर को कहीं इस्लामाबाद जाना है, हम आपका टाइम नहीं ले सकेंगे इतना, तो आप सबकी मेहरबानी और आप इस प्रोग्राम को कामयाब करने में जो अपना किरदार अदा किया मैं अप्रिशिएट करता हूँ। और आखिर में ये कि कुछ हमारे वॉलंटियर्स, ऑर्गेनाइजर्स रह गए हैं सर्टिफिकेट से, उसकी वजह यह है कि वाइस चांसलर साहब को कहीं जाना है। आप सबकी मेहरबानी। माँ कुछ भी नहीं थैंक यू सर, थैंक यू सर। सब कुछ थी ये सर 3 साहब है सर।
हम लोग छोटे होते थे तो देयर वाज एन अंकल हु यूज्ड टू कम टू आवर प्लेस विद ऑल द ड्राई फ्रूट्स एंड एवरीथिंग। तो एक विंटर सीजन ये हुआ 2010 में, somehow the dry fruits stopped coming and my parents told me कि it is because जो उनका village है जिस नॉर्थन साइड से वो आते हैं वो flooded हो गया and he and his family has grown in that. So वो चीज़ कहीं ना कहीं मेरे सबकॉन्शियस में रह गई। And when I grew up until I reached my semester 7 of bachelor's, वहाँ पे हम लोगों ने पढ़ा disaster risk management, and then I had to select a topic and then I got to know about flood and drought and everything. for instance, हम लोग देख लेते हैं, this is the area. I have taken this from International Center of Integrated Mountain Research. ये हम अगर इमेजिन कर रहे हैं कि हम लोगों का एरिया है अदावाद लेक का. So I will play this video. और ये जूम हो जाएगा अदावाद लेक वाले एरिया. So this is how that lake is formed. वहाँ लैंडस्लाइड हुई, इस वजह से हुंजा रिवर का जो पार्ट था that got blocked. और इसकी ब्लॉकेज की वजह से a dam lake formed. तो वहाँ ये हुआ कि this what you can see here. अच्छा ये चीज़ होती है, अगर ये लैंडस्लाइड क्वेश्चन है सारा जो मामले से हुआ, तो रिवर के पीछे आ रहा है एंड द पाथ इज ब्लॉक्ड. तो वो रिवर फिल होता रहा और ये जगह फिल अप होगी. अब ये इस तरह से बढ़ते बढ़ते अदावाद लेक बन गई. अब नाउ इट इज वेटिंग फॉर अ माइन्यूट चेंज. वो प्रेशर हो सकता है इंक्रीज दैट कुड बी ड्यू टू द क्लाइमेट चेंज एंड द मेल्टिंग ऑफ द ग्लेशियर्स दैट आर देयर. ऑलरेडी एक मेरी कलीग है, फ्रेंड है, एमन आपको एक्सप्लेन कर चुकी है कि कैसे उसके रूट पे जो है दे आर फोर ग्लेशियर्स. तो अगर वो मेल्ट होते हैं या इवन और मजीद लैंडस्लाइडिंग होती है उसके अंदर, तो आप देख सकते हैं कि छोटे से चेंज की वजह से प्रेशर बढ़ सकता है और वो टूट सकता है. तो जब वो टूटेगा, जिसको हम कहेंगे कि जो लेक का है वो आउटलर फ्लडिंग हो गई है, तो जो नीचे डाउनस्ट्रीम एरिया है हुंजा रिवर का वो फ्लडिंग हो जाएगा. और इसमें आप देख सकते हैं कि विलेजेस हैं, रेजिडेंशियल एरिया है, जो कि ऑब्वियसली वहाँ की लोगों के लिए भी इशू करेगा. तो यहाँ तक मैं यही दिखाना चाहूँगी. इसके बाद मैं आ जाती हूँ आप लोगों को ये वायर्स टेक्निकल रीजन को. डेफिनेटली दिस वाज कॉज ऑफ एक पर्सनल इवेंट था. दूसरा उसकी वजह से ये है कि आई थिंक दैट दिस रीजन रियली नीड्स सम इम्पॉर्टेंस रिगार्डिंग रिसर्च एंड डिजास्टर मैनेजमेंट. नेक्स्ट थिंग आई एम गोइंग टू मेरा स्टडी है जो मैं आप लोगों को एक्सप्लेन कर चुकी हूँ. So this is the main course of Hunza River and this is the Allahabad Lake. And I stand corrected regarding the map of Pakistan. And this is the stream network that actually explains कि कितने सारे जो stream borders हैं वो जहाँ पे गिर रहे हैं कहीं ना कहीं Hunza River के पास में. So this can be one of the reasons why a lake outburst can be expected. The next my research objectives were basically to assess the extent of flood और उसके बाद vulnerability requirement का assess करो कि कितने export element है वहाँ. The thing is in my methodology to start with I use the sentinel images. उसके अलावा मैंने हेक्टर्स को यूज़ किया था फ्लड इनहेबिशन मॉडलिंग के लिए और हेक्टर्स की जो थी वो मैंने यूज़ की थी एक्सटेंशन. लेक कॉलम जो है वो मैंने रिसर्च पेपर से लिया था और उसको मैंने इसके अंदर जब इंसर्ट किया तो उसमें मुझे फ्लडेड कॉलम दे दिया. उन तीनों चीज़ों को मैंने यूज़ किया है टू असेस द हैजर्ड, वल्नरेबिलिटी एंड एक्सपोजर. फॉर द हैजर्ड आई यूज बफर एनालिसिस एंड वाटरशेड मॉडलिंग, जिससे आपने अभी देखा है कि मैंने स्ट्रीम नेटवर्क जनरेट किया है. The next thing is the questionnaire survey, which was actually postponed due to the COVID conditions. So I did an on-call survey of certain people, or the exposure was regarding my inundation area. ये कुछ रिजल्ट्स जो मेन सामने आए थे. टाइप ऑफ ऑक्यूपेशन जो था 14.
The key problems suggested to be solved in this research: reduce threats of waste materials for environment, cut off the cost of dumping waste materials converted into valuable materials, utilizing the take water insensitized process, reducing the cost of zero process, using resultant materials for the removal of methylene, blue and orange dyes from industrial water. Material methodology. We took coal fly ash from the waste product from coal power plants.
And this you can see many factories of the delta, of the climate change, of the water scarcity. The people are living in water, and because they don't have any options to live. This is one of my publications that shows, in this publication I try to show that the water is intruding into the main stream of the river, and the main and from the fresh water is not coming from the north, from the upper area. So in this slides, the water you can see in 78 there was abundant water, but in 2007 the near amount water was higher there, but it was not, it was salty water, it was water from the sea. So sea fusion impact you can see over this in this paper. Similarly, another paper of the I have got on the climate also in southern Sindh. Yes, it's my last. So in southern Sindh, I calculated with the help of the decadal regression method, and 1.3 degree temperature has rising of lower Sindh. in last 100 years. So this is the map of the agriculture. You know the agriculture has affected, and covered area of Pakistan is 69 million hectares, and only 27% is given to the agriculture. There are lots of issues in agriculture: water quality, water scarcity, groundwater, and many other things. And you know the extensive practices, traditional type of practices also. So one of the main reason is the water scarcity, that due to which the agriculture is day by day going towards the decline positions. So because of the shortage of time, I couldn't explain anymore. So these are the questions, but still now these are the questions that are you doing any effort to lessen the greenhouse gases? Have you educated your nations to manage the nature? Or could the Pakistan compete with the upcoming disastrous phenomena? And because it is going to be the big issues than poverty, terrorism and health issues in the world. So this is the the main thing. Thank you for your questions. Any question? जी I have shown you. Definitely. Disaster events will occur. The sea level will rise. Flood will come. Definitely temperature rise होगा तो extreme weather conditions develop होंगी. Flooded conditions बिल्कुल हो जाएंगी. Temperature हिमालय से में बढ़ेगा तो ज़्यादा वो होगा. तो हम मैनेज नहीं कर सकते. बेसिकली मेन इशू ये है. अंटार्कटिका का तो पोजीशन इज गोइंग ऑन. इवन के अभी जो नॉर्थ अमेरिका से जो पैसिफिक ओशन से जो आप रास्ता जाता है, पहले वहाँ से शिप्स नहीं जाती थी, तो रास्ते भी नहीं कराए शिप्स के आपके अंटार्कटिका से. वहाँ से शिप शॉर्ट रूट हो गया है. नॉर्थ अमेरिका कनाडा से आपका जो आप रशिया की तरफ से रास्ता जा रहा है, बिकॉज मोस्ट ऑफ द एरिया हैव बीन एम्प्टी. ओके जी सर. मेरे ख्याल में प्लीज माइक ले.
Director of EPS this is a good time to just revise this issue, because all conferences reservation. This is just revisation. That the EPS and other agencies, government agencies, can do the rainwater harvest, flood harvest, the rains and the things like that. So perhaps we can take the loss rate. This is just a solution to take that. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Sir, I have a question. Once I just watched a presentation. He was it's available. I will share it with you. It was means climate change discussion. According to his research, human-induced CO2 emissions only accounts for 3%. 97% CO2 is emitted naturally. And you are saying that all this is just to what do you think? Do you agree with this? Because when I look at the title of your presentation, it was that human-induced and natural or strong. So I just want to take your notes that we will have such kind of statistics that total carbon dioxide that is emitted in our atmosphere, how much percentage is human-induced and how much is natural? Because according to that research, it was only 3%. Although I also agree that there is global warming and there is climate change. But if human-induced carbon dioxide emissions only accounts 3% and 97% is natural, so what's your comments? It's not a question, just a topic of discussion.
I think it is debatable. First of all, the 97% is natural and 2% is artificial. But naturally, most of the things have happened in the last past. In 17th century, the temperature was decreasing in the world. In 1000s before, temperature has increased. And that time the Viking went to the Iceland area and Greenland area. He settled over there after that. So in 5000 years ago, those were the warm thermal years, thermal being that is called. So the highest temperature was that time. So we cannot say some of the natural things happen. So everything is not perfect, we cannot go into the decision. But presently, as I said, that it is obvious that most of the things are human beings. Ji, please.
As we know that the world has been facing the climate change from history. So, as you mentioned, the organization, World Level Organization, working for climate change. So, what they have worked till the day, and as we know that the climate change is all level, the state of the world has been working on that. So, what are the suggestions for the common people like us? What can we do for the environment?
First of all, we need to educate. After this, there, I understand the things that happen. We can control the population. Even within our country, we cannot control our population. We need to educate our issues. Then, after this climate adaptation methodology for the economic activity, then the climate mitigation process will be done. So first of all, education is, education must be then all the people. And all the people will be aware, like where these people and I are saying that these things will be happening. So when all the people will be aware, then most of the things will be controlled.
Some people are saying that if environmental pollution of high production is one area, and the hole in the ozone is in another area. What is the reason?
Sir, CFC gases are not responsible. CFC gases, carbon gases are responsible, and mainly the industries are located in Western Europe and America, Northern America. That's why CFC gases are emitting and create a hole near the Antarctic region.
I think the critics are saying that the line is upon Antarctica.
Yes, sir.
Again, people are saying some people are saying it is just like carbon dioxide. Carbon tax imposed to the world by the rich countries. So what do you?
There are many gases, gases, every gas has its own effect. The carbon dioxide gases are increasing the temperature. It has the ability to retain the temperature. When the temperature will retain, it will retain and increase the temperature of the surface of the earth and extreme condition. Weather condition will create. And ozone layer is another because from the other main gas is the CFC gas. Those, ozone O3 it is due to the CFC gases, carbon gases, it is holes are created.
फर्टिलाइजर कंपनी हमने बहुत सारे ऐसे काम किए जो क्लाइमेट चेंजेस और ट्रेडिशनल की जो एग्रीकल्चर पैटर्न जो पाकिस्तान में चल रहा है उसको हमने न्यू सब जगह फॉलो करने की कोशिश की है। 2-3 साल से बल्कि मैं समझता हूँ कि 2017 से we are facing acute climatic changes regarding agricultural point of view से। तो सबसे ज़्यादा जो चीज़ इंफ्लुएंस में आई है मैं वो आगे चल के अपनी कुछ स्लाइड्स में पेश करूँगा। तो मैं थोड़ा सा स्टार्ट करूँगा अपनी जो मेरी प्रेजेंटेशन है। मैं थोड़ा सा इंट्रोडक्शन करूँगा फार्मा इंडस्ट्रीज ओवरव्यू का कि पाकिस्तान में जो हमारी
advance some knowledge regarding the climate change impacts on soil resources, particularly in terms of how the climate change is impacting the sustainable crop production in Pakistan. Basically, climate change is a long-term shift in temperature, precipitation, and the hydrological phenomena. Why we are really concerned with the climate change, why we talk about its long-term impact on the different sectors. Actually, when there is climate change, this is a long-term modification. This will not come back within the certain year. If you ask me that if the climate change happens, will this come back within 5 years, 10 years? But this is not going to happen within even the 50 years. So once the climate is being changed now, it will remain for a longer time. Its impacts are even not a shorter time, but its impact are always for a longer perspective. So currently we have been facing plenty of different challenges in terms of infrastructure threatening coastal communities and depressing properties as well as climate